history series that we teach here every Monday morning at the Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens, and delighted to have you with us. Thank you for joining me here this morning. Today we have moved, last week we've actually moved the center of Judaism from the Holy Land, the land of Israel, after about 1,000 years of living in the promised land since Joshua brings the people into the land of Israel and the construction of our first temple. Our 10 tribes have been exiled by Sancheriv, king of Assyria. The remaining 2 tribes were conquered by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, who subsequently destroyed the temple and exiled the people to Babylon. It's at this point in Babylon where King Nebuchadnezzar, this is where we left off last week, King Nebuchadnezzar has a very, very strange dream. Problem is, not only does he not understand the dream, he doesn't even remember the dream. So what he did is that he instructed all of his advisors and necromancers and sorcerers and all the other important people around the king to tell him not only the meaning of the dream, but also what he actually dreamt. And he said to them, if you cannot tell me what I dreamt last night, that's a sign that you are all fakers and you all deserve to die. As it happened, he was preparing to execute them all when Daniel asks to speak to the king, and he reveals to him the meaning, the actual dream. He reminds him of the dream, and he tells him the meaning of the dream. Just to refresh your memory, or in case you missed it last week, this is where we reached last week. I'm just going to review for you the dream itself as Daniel introduces himself to the king of Babylon. So Daniel comes to Nebuchadnezzar and he tells him the secret regarding your question, my majesty. There is no man in the world who knows the answer to your question. Only God, Hashem, up in the heavens, has nothing hidden from him. He has revealed it to me, and he told me to tell you what it was that you dreamed. Your majesty, you saw in your dream what will happen in the end of days. You had a prophecy far off into the future. And listen closely to my words. Before you fell asleep, in your heart, you were worried about who was it that was going to rule after you. And behold, in your dream, Hashem, the God of Israel, revealed to you what you wanted to know. And with his permission, I'm revealing it to you right now. Not because I'm smarter than other people, but only because Hashem wants that you should know the answer. In the dream that you dreamed, my master, you saw a great idol. It was beautiful, standing before you. The head of the idol was made out of pure gold. Its body and its arms were made out of silver. Its thighs were made out of copper, and its shins, the part under the knees, were made out of metal. Also, its feet were made of metal together with clay or pottery. While you were staring at this magnificent idol, you saw a stone come out of nowhere, smash into the idol onto its feet. The legs of the idol were sort of melted, or they just withered away, and together with them, suddenly all the body parts of the idol, of this great idol, also began to disintegrate. They turned into powder, and they scattered in all directions of the wind. That little stone, which caused all of this damage, became a huge mountain that filled up the entire world. That was your dream, your majesty. And now, allow me to share with you its interpretation, says Daniel. So if you've just joined us, I'd like to say hello to you, Steve, in person, and Winston from Jakarta, Marty from Mirasol, and Terry from Atlanta. Everybody else that's with us here live or later, conspicuous or inconspicuous, great to have you with us. So this is what we reached until last week. And now the king, your great king, ruling over many kings, mighty kings. The God of heaven has given into your hands strength and power. You are the golden head of that idol. The golden head of the idol represents you, the kingdom of Babylon. Remember, he began the kingdom of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, because before Babylon came Assyria by Sancherib, a mighty kingdom, of which was wiped out when when King Chizkiyahu experienced the miracle of the siege of Jerusalem. We've spoken about that in earlier classes here at youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. But you are the mighty king, the golden head of the idol, the kingdom of Babylon. Why? Because you're more important than all the other kings of the world. After you will come another kingdom which is less important than you, and that is the kingdom of Persia and Media. Persia and Media, Parasumadai in Hebrew, is the king of the Purim story. Now we're going to learn about this in this biblical history series. How it was that Nebuchadnezzar had a son, evil Merodach, and his son Belshazzar was conquered through a prophecy of Daniel. If you remember the story of the writing being on the wall, a hand appeared that wrote mysteriously on the wall. Daniel was the one that interpreted the writing on the wall. It was about 50 years after this particular story. And Daniel prophesied that the Persians and the Medians had united together to conquer Babylon, and indeed they did that very night. So they would be the body that was made of silver. After them will rule the Greeks. I guess that would be the thighs made of copper. And after them will rule the Arabs, the Ishmaelites. They would be the shins made of metal. They will be strong, and they, the Arabs. I'm assuming this is going to be referring to the rise of the Almohads and right after Muhammad, the rise of Islam. They will be mighty, and they will want to rule over the whole world in their days. The God of the heavens will establish a kingdom that will never again fall, a kingdom that will never be removed from those who hold on to it. This kingdom, which will rule forever, will wipe out all previous kingdoms that came before it. This is the stone, the rock, that destroyed the idol entirely and turned itself into a mighty mountain. This final kingdom is the kingdom of Israel in the future. Their king will be the King Mashiach, and after he destroys the nations, they themselves will rule exclusively forever. Wow, what a dream and what an interpretation. Quite an honor for Nebuchadnezzar to receive this godly revelation in his nighttime dream. I'm not sure if there's chats coming in on YouTube, because I'm not seeing any chats coming in. For some reason, my YouTube seems to be on a different setting today. So if you are trying to chat with me on YouTube, there's like all blank today. Maybe Facebook is a better place. Facebook.com/Jewish Gardens. Again, I don't know what's going on with my YouTube. I know that I'm on, but I cannot see if you're writing me any comments. The king was naturally flabbergasted and shaken to these words. And he stood up on his feet and he bowed down before Daniel. Remember, this king had just conquered Jerusalem. He had just brought about the fall of the mighty kingdom of Israel. He had seemingly he had wiped out the Jewish nation. I mean, every other nation that was conquered by the Babylonians is moved into the history books. But somehow the Jewish people didn't, right? We were there. We were conquered by pretty much every nation, every empire, but somehow we outlived them all. And that's what this dream was all about. You can just imagine that this nation, which was just conquered by Babylon, you'd think they'd resort to the history books like every other, but this dream tells them that it's not going to happen that way. They will ultimately prevail forever. So the king wanted to bring sacrifices to Daniel, and he wanted to bow down to him as an idol. But Daniel refused, and he says, I do not deserve your gratitude. I am not the Almighty. It is the God of Israel who revealed this to me, and only he is worthy of being worshipped. Remember, Nebuchadnezzar was living in a pagan society, a pagan culture, where they just wanted to worship all sorts of physical objects. They couldn't relate to the abstract. This is the introduction of monotheism, to believe in one invisible God who sees us, but we can't see him. Great presents the king gave to Daniel, and he commanded him, gave him a position on top of on top of all of his ministers over all the lands of his kingdom. Also to Daniel's friends, who had three main friends, their names were Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The king also gave them presents and important positions in his kingdom. From that day on, the king respected and honored these young Jewish boys, and he didn't do anything before asking Daniel the wise. Right? So this is Daniel. Now he was a young man, very young man at this time. He was probably a bar mitzvah kid at this time, who was, as we learned in last week, he was one of the young men that were asked to serve and in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar to learn their customs, learn their language, so as to influence the rest of the people with the wise ways of the Jewish people. Now, Nebuchadnezzar believed the words of Daniel, and therefore he was worried about his own ending and the ending of his kingdom, because he realized the Persians and the Medes are going to come after him. What can I do in order to alter the prophecy? How can I change the prophecy, which would be the demise, the fall of my kingdom? The king asked Daniel. When he promised him that he was going to do whatever he tells him, Daniel said to him like this: your decree has already been signed and sealed in heaven, and there's nothing you can do to change it. However, I will give you this advice. If you give tzedakah and you do kindness, tzedakah v'chesed, it's very possible that the fulfillment of the judgment will be delayed, and you will merit to have many years of goodness. Open up your treasure houses in front of the Jews that you've brought to your land from their land. They used to be wealthy and honored in their land of Israel, and now in Babylon they are poor and miserable. Give them a place to live, give them food to eat, and maybe in the merit of this tzedakah and chesed, tzedakah and kindness, Hashem will have mercy upon you. By the way, this is brilliant advice from Daniel, and Daniel was later punished for giving this advice to the wicked Nebuchadnezzar. Remember, Nebuchadnezzar was like Hitler. Just think about this a second. He was the Hitler of his time. He probably killed more Jews than Hitler ever did. Think about that, right? He destroyed our temple, something Hitler could only dream of. And he literally destroyed the kingdom of Israel for at least 70 years, right? Imagine if since Hitler until now, 75 years later, we would still be under his leadership. Can you imagine how many Jews died under the leadership of Nebuchadnezzar? So Daniel was later punished for this particular advice, giving this good advice to this despotic tyrant, this Nebuchadnezzar. Now, Daniel didn't really want to give benefit to this wicked Nebuchadnezzar, so why then did he give him this good advice? How to be saved from the decree which was coming to him for the terrible destruction of our temple and of the people of Israel. Daniel recognized the king of Babel as a wicked man, and he knew that it's not going to last very long. He knew that this man was so wicked, he would be incapable of being kind for an extended period of time. He knew that it was only a matter of a short function of time before Nebuchadnezzar would return back to his evil, selfish, and narcissistic ways. And then he would return back to receiving his just deserts. However, until then, even if for a short time, he would be able to improve the situation of the Jews and prevent so many of them from the impending famine that they were facing, because they were so suffering. Then he thought that would be a good thing, that the king should give tzedakah to the Jews, to the suffering Jews, and even if it meant that he would be spared for just a little bit longer. Good morning, Rob Berger. I'm sorry to hear, Terry, that our connection is cutting in and out. I have no idea why that is. I can't imagine. Don't know. During one year, the king of Babylon listened to the words of Daniel, and he was very kind to the miserable and poor Jews, those that he exiled from the lands of Judah, from the Holy Land. He provided for them very generously from his great treasure houses of gold and silver, until he totally forgot the terrible dream that he dreamt. And one day, when he heard the voice of the poor people coming to ask for food, as they would every single day, suddenly the king snapped. He lost his temper, and he commanded his servants, don't give them any more food, any more provisions from my precious storehouses. If I give all my money to the Jews, how will I possibly strengthen and build my kingdom? That's what he told himself in his heart, just exactly as Daniel had predicted. He fell back on his evil ways, and he started to trouble the Jews again. I'm not afraid of them. I'm not afraid of their God. I burnt down his temple, and I took his people hostage. What could he possibly do to me? This is the rise again of the selfish and egocentric Nebuchadnezzar. The king laughed towards heaven, and he didn't know that 1 year had passed in peace and calm and serenity for him, only in the merit of the kindness and the tzedakah that he had done towards the Jewish people. This king of Babylon knew that the God of Israel loves his people. He protects them, and he saves them from all evil if they go in his ways. Therefore, he decided to lead them into sin. Therefore, he decided to lead the people of Israel into sin so that their own God would turn his back on them. What did he do? If they won't believe in their God, in Hashem, and they will bow down to idols, then Hashem will be angry with them and they'll lose their secret weapon, their secret protection. And then Hashem won't make them into the great kingdom that will rule over the entire world and that will rule forever, as he prophesied in his original dream. That's what the king told himself in his heart. So he figured this is going to be his plan. He's going to lead the Jews astray. God will abandon the Jews and the whole dream will be cancelled. Therefore, King Nebuchadnezzar decided to instruct his servants to build for him a massive, massive idol. A massive idol. 60 cubits was its length and 60 cubits was its width. Now, a cubit is about 2 to 4 feet, depending on how you calculate it. So let's say go by 4 feet. That's 240 feet tall by 240 feet wide. I mean, this is huge. It's like a building, right? And when they try to put up when they try to put up the idol that they didn't manage, every time that they try to put it up, it would fall over on its face. The king said to his servants, quickly, bring me all the gold and silver that I brought from Jerusalem. And they poured it all together. They melted the gold into the feet of the idol in order that it should stand strong with a stronger and heavier base. What's the purpose of the king doing? What's he going to do with this idol? Let's find out in just a moment. Question on YouTube from Elaine. Was the kingdom of Rome not in the prophecy? I guess not. I guess the kingdom of Rome was not in the prophecy. Probably because Rome, which was allegedly conquered by Greece, Rome, which claimed to have conquered Greece, was actually conquered by Greece. Because the Romans were brute warriors. They weren't exactly smart people. The Greeks were wise people. It was the culture of Greece which was adopted by Rome and not vice versa. So really, Greece, the Hanukkah story, is the ones that overruled the Romans. They might have beat the Greeks' bodies, but the spirit of the Greeks lives on to this very day, which is, we speak about the Roman Empire, but really it's the Greek influence, the Greeks that led the people of the Roman Empire. Now, after they finally erected this massive idol in a valley called the Valley of Dura. This is a very important story. The king made an announcement throughout all the lands that he ruled. Every man and woman must come and bow down to this idol, and anybody who won't will be burned in fire. Nebuchadnezzar knew that Daniel will not bow down to a man-made idol, and since he did not want to kill his trusted and beloved advisor, he told all of his servants. Now he knew that Daniel was not going to bow down to the idol, and now he didn't want that his servants should say that the man that Nebuchadnezzar wanted to worship, he's now burning in fire. Because remember, Daniel was Nebuchadnezzar wanted to bow down to him. He wanted to worship him as an idol. So in order that the people shouldn't say that Nebuchadnezzar was going to burn the man that he wanted to worship, therefore he told Daniel to go to the land of Israel and to bring from Israel seeds and grasses in order to plant them in Babylon as pasture for the animals. That way, while Daniel was far away, he wouldn't be included in the decree and you wouldn't have to worry about him. Meanwhile, Nebuchadnezzar will kill all the people that refuse to bow down to the idol, which would primarily be the Jews. And Daniel himself will survive. Daniel is the friend of the king, but all the other Jews will either be killed or they will sin, and thus the prophecy will be annulled because God will turn his back on the Jews. Daniel also was very happy to leave Babylon at the time of this terrible decree. He figured, if I get burned in fire because I don't bow down to the idol, everybody will say that the words of Hashem are true, what it says in the Torah, that the idols of their gods, they will burn in fire. Because they will say that I, Daniel, am the idol of the king of Babylon. He really believes to bow down to me, right? And therefore he figured, I better get out of here, because otherwise the Jews are going to say that I'm an idol of Babylon, of the king of Babylon, and that's why I'm being burned in the fire. So much better for me to leave. From all the kingdoms from all the countries that the king ruled over, many, many, many people came to the Valley of Dura and they bowed down to this huge, pathetic idol that he built over there. When Daniel returned from his trip to the land of Israel, the idol was still there, Achenvei. And many, many people had not yet had their opportunity to bow down to the idol because of the fear of the king. Now that Daniel's there and Daniel's not bowing down to the idol, the king Nebuchadnezzar asked Daniel, why are you not bowing down to my idol? Which, of course, Daniel didn't even occur to him to bow down to such an idol. Do you really think that this idol has no power? Nebuchadnezzar now asked Daniel, come and see. I will show you that this idol is able to speak. This idol is able to speak. Let's take a look at what he did. Daniel goes with the king to the valley of Dura. And what did he do? King Nebuchadnezzar took the tzitz, which was the holiest item of the clothing of the high priest. Remember, he ransacked the temple. He destroyed the temple. And he took the gold from the temple. The high priest would wear a tzitz, which was like a golden plate, over his forehead, upon which was engraved the name of God, the ineffable, unpronounceable name of God. He then took this tzitz and he put it into the mouth of the idol, unbeknownst to Daniel. So what happened? The idol would then somehow pronounce these words, Anoichi Havaye Eleikecha. I am Hashem, your God. The first three words of the Ten Commandments. I am Hashem, your God. So the idol of Nebuchadnezzar was actually speaking, I am God, your God. Very closely connected to what we read in the Parsha this past Shabbos, where the Jews bowed down to the golden calf, right? And they said, these are your gods, O Israel. All the people around would hear the idol saying, I am God, your God. The idol, it's clearly not just a gold. It's clearly, animated. It's clearly alive. So all the people around were singing and dancing and praising the idol with great voice. And when Daniel saw what happened, he asked for permission from the king to kiss the idol on its mouth. Why? Obviously, Daniel understood what happened. He was trying to remove the tzitz, the holy tzitz of the high priest, from the mouth of the idol, so that he wanted to get an opportunity to get close, so that the people would stop worshiping the idol. Now, Nebuchadnezzar didn't understand why Daniel would want to kiss this massive idol. I mean, the mouth must have been, 200 feet up in the air. Why would he want to kiss the idol in the mouth? But when he did give permission to Daniel to do this, Daniel came close to the mouth of the idol. He basically put his mouth near the tzitz, which was in the mouth of the idol, and he said, I am the messenger of the master of the universe, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I am commanding you, the tzitz, that you come after me, and you shall cease this public desecration of the name of Hashem. That's what Daniel speaks now to the tzitz. When it looked like Daniel was kissing the idol on its mouth, what he really did is that he took the tzitz out of the mouth of the idol, and that stopped the tzitz from the idol from saying these words, while they were still all standing there agape, non-belief to the vision of the eyes. The wind blew, a strong wind blew, and the idol fell upon its face. So this is what happens now. The idol now falls upon its face. The rumor went around, and it reached the ears of Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, the young friends of Daniel. And they quickly ran to Yechezkel, the prophet, to hear what Hashem wanted them to do. Right? What should they do about the decree of the worshipping of the idol? Yechezkel, the prophet, by the way, he's buried to this very day in Iraq. His grave is still there. Hopefully it's going to still be there after all these crazy wars. But by the way, they found in the grave of Yechezkel, they found tefillin. And the tefillin that they found, I can't remember if they were in the style of Rashi or in the style of Rabbeinu Tam, which is a different kind of tefillin. Right? I lay both of them. The Rebbe told us to lay both pairs of tefillin. Which is fascinating that in Iraq, they found a tomb that's over 2,000, probably 2,400 years old. And in that tomb, they found, this is not recent, but they found that a few hundred years ago, they found the tefillin, and it's brought down in Jewish writings. So this prophet Ezekiel, Yechezkel, he told them to hide until the king would remove the decree. However, they refused. They said, we want to publicly sanctify the name of God. Let us go also us to the valley of Dura, and we will not bow down to the idol, in order that everyone should see that there is no other God other than the God the creator of the universe, the God of Israel. When he heard their words, the prophet Ezekiel asked Hashem if he will save these three boys who want to sanctify the name of God in public. And Hashem said to him, my sons have sinned. They have not observed my mitzvahs and they've left me alone. Tell the people that have come to you that I will not save them. And not only that, but also the rest of my people, the rest of the remnant of the people of Israel that are still in the land of Israel, I will exile them to here. I will destroy the temple because of their terrible sins. I guess the temple wasn't actually destroyed at this point. With great sadness, Yechezkel shared the prophecy to the three men, but the three righteous men, Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah, did not give up on their desire to sanctify the name of God. They said, even the frogs that Hashem sent to Egypt in the second plague of the 10 plagues, they didn't think about themselves when they entered into the ovens that were being burned for the Egyptians, the ovens that the Egyptians are using to cook. They just jumped into every single place because the frogs wanted to sanctify the name of God, to serve as soldiers, even if it was at the cost of their own life. If that was true of the frogs in the plague of Egypt, how much more so we too have to sanctify the name of God and to give up our lives. And therefore Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah made up in their hearts. They decided to go to the valley of Dura without any fear. Friends, we're going to end the class over here. I got to go. I wish you all a wonderful day. We'll carry on tomorrow morning with Tanya at 8:30 in the morning, chapter 43. We'll be talking about the two levels of love. We'll be talking about the two levels of awe, which we've been discussing recently in Tanya in our journey towards an emotional relationship with God. Thank you for joining me this morning, friends. Shalom, and have a wonderful day.